how would you measure success for Facebook events? Hi, everyone, and welcome to another mock interview with Exponent. My name is Nema, and I'm here today with Vipul. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, I'm Vipul. I'm the director of product management at Slack. I oversee the areas for machine learning, AI, scalability, performance, as well as on data insights. Yeah, and thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you today for a product management mock interview. And this is going to be an execution style interview for anyone who's watching. So my question to you today is, how would you measure success for Facebook events?
Sure. I'll just share my screen. I think if it sounds okay. So right before I go into the question, I just want to have a few clarifying questions to ensure that I'm on the same page. So my understanding of Facebook events is a product on Facebook which users can find on the left pane. It's a tab where users can go. The key part of the product is it ensures or it allows a group of people to come either at the same place or at the same time, and it requires users to take a certain kind of an action. And in this case, the action is an RSVP. Is my understanding of the product right?
Yes, I think that's right.
Cool. And in terms of a few more questions. In terms of the product, I believe Facebook events has been there for quite some time. So it's a very mature product. I don't think so acquisition would be our goal. In terms of a very, very high level goal, I think it might be more towards the engagement on the platform. Is that accurate?
I think that's right. I'll let you reason out which one you think is the better one to go, but that sounds sound to me.
Sounds good. And one more quick question on this one is, as I'm thinking about the product and as I'm going to go and define the success of it, is there a higher level business strategy I should be having in mind, like from FB's perspective?
Nothing at the moment. Could you give me an example of maybe what kind of strategy would paint the answer to your question here?
Let's say the high level strategy, it could be to drive more engagement on the platform or to drive more sort of CTRs to some other product. So I just wanted to ensure that is there a high level strategy I should ensure?
No direction from the company at the moment.
And one more final question in terms of measuring success. Is there some sort of a time frame? And the reason I want to ask this question is if I have to go and define the success in the next 6 months or versus the next 5 years, the sort of the parameters would be sort of a bit different. So I just want to check if there's some sort of a time frame in mind.
No time frame in mind either.
Okay, sounds good. Cool. So I think I have an understanding of the product and the specifications here. So how I would like to approach this question is to talk on a very high level as to why the product exists, talk about how it relates back to the overall mission of Facebook. And then I want to go really quickly into a landscape analysis of what other products exist out there. From there, I want to do a very quick user segmentation, understand a bit of the user journeys, and then I want to go and define some metrics with the help of which I want to go and measure the success of the product. Just want to pause here to check if the overall strategy sounds good.
That sounds good to me.
Cool. So I'll just take a couple of minutes and I'll get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm going and thinking about the product, I just want to first of all relate back to the overall mission of Facebook. So Facebook's mission, from my understanding, is to give power to the people to build engaged communities and to go and get the world closer together. I think Facebook events is a very key product when we go and think about the overall mission of Facebook, because it allows a highly engaged Facebook user to reach out to other users who either might be their followers or not. These other users who could be in various other forms of their engagement with Facebook to basically form an ecosystem where, what I mean by an ecosystem, by forming a place or a venue, it could be virtual or it could be in person, where these people can form and have a conversation or do some kind of an activity. So it actually gels very well into the overall mission of Facebook. As I'm talking about the product strategy, I think as we talked about this, the tool exists to drive more engagement. And by engagement, I mean by more participation in between the people who are forming the events and the people who are the overall consumers of the event.
Mm-hmm.
And since looking a level up from the Facebook side, I think Facebook events helps in a way that it helps drive more stickiness on the platform, and by stickiness, hence more engagement on the platform. So overall, as I'm talking about this, and even in one of my clarifying questions, as I was mentioning, I think the key goal of the product is to drive more engagement, and that's the reason I want to focus on engagement and not on acquisition for this product. I just will pause here to check if you have any questions.
No questions so far. This sounds good.
Cool. So what I'll do next, I'll take a quick couple of minutes to look at the landscape and to see what other products exist out there. I'll take one more minute.
Sure.
So as I'm thinking about the competitive landscape, I can think about a couple of products, and a lot of these products have seen a very huge growth in 2020, all because of the work from home and the virtual environment. So I can think about Google Calendar and Zoom, and also a product like Meetup. Specifically, when I'm talking about a product like Google Calendar or Zoom, I think one key thing to call out is these products exist in their own ecosystem. So for users, it's very hard to go and discover what kind of events are happening. Whereas like a product like Meetup, it is a very specialized product for hosting events. But again, in this product, you have an ecosystem of people who are existing on the platform. But the key thing which is missing from Meetup, at least from my perspective, is you don't know which people are participating. You don't have information about the people who are participating in events. So Facebook actually has a very clear moat, or like very strong point here, because of its entire network effect, that it has a network of people. And when people are participating in events, they can go and discover the other users. And even after the event has closed by, they can go and have more engagements with the other users and interact with these users even after the close of the event. So even looking at the overall competitive landscape, I think engagement, the overall strategy which I was looking at, which was on engagement, I think that's still holds true.
Okay.
I would pause here to check if you have any questions.
I'm not at the moment. Maybe we can go into what you think, how you would start thinking about sorry, I'm going to start that again. No questions at the moment.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll just take a few minutes more to, what I want to do next is look at the segments of users who are using the product, and then go about like what their user journey looks like. So I'll just take 1 minute and I'll get back to you.
Sure.
Yeah, I was just going and trying to find the mute button. So if you're looking at the user segments, I can think about three. First one is the people who are going and forming these events, which are as I mentioned, the people who are forming the events. The second one are the joiners. So once the event has been formed, certain people want to be a part of this event. So these are the joiners, and of course, Facebook as a platform. When we look at the people who are forming their events, their user journey, what it looks like is on the left-hand side, they can go and click on events, where they have an option of forming a new event. Once they form a new event, they have a couple of options. They can choose if the event is virtual or the event is in person. If they choose a virtual event, they have a separate user flow versus if they choose if the event is in person. And as a part of the user flow, they can choose and go and add more details about the event, like where the event is happening, what time is the event, and like more details about the event. And once they are done with forming the event, the next step is to add users. So they add, you have a page where you can invite more users. And once you invite users, the notification goes to the individual users. In terms of the joiners, if you look at from the joiners perspective, their user journey might be like, you go and discover the event if it's a public event. So you can go and search for the event in the Facebook events tab. From there, you can see a list of events based on specific tags. So that's one. The other one, it could be someone has already added the users to a specific event. So they'll be notified either via a notification or via an email. And once they get to the event, they can choose to do certain action on the event. So they can say they're interested in the event, or they can start a discussion. So like Facebook events has a tab about the event and sort of a discussion tab, or they can go and RSVP onto the event saying that they want to attend the event or know that they don't want to attend the event. And so these are like the user journeys from like kind of these two user segments. Really quickly on the platform side of things, Facebook events, like if you land on the Facebook events page, you also see some other information. And I believe one of the key reasons Facebook uses this is to drive more adoption of the other products. So you can share your Facebook events to your other Facebook groups. You can see other similar liked events, or you can also go and invite other users to the event. So these are the overall user journeys for these various user segments. Again, I want to go and take a quick pause to check if you have any questions.
So to recap, you mentioned that there were three types of creators. Three types of users. There's creators, joiners, and then platform. Between these three, which one do you think you would prioritize when looking at whether events as a product is successful?
Yeah, so at the present moment, so how I want to like approach the next section of the question is I don't want to prioritize a specific segment right now. I want to look at I want to look at all the metrics with my overall goal to drive more engagement. I think with the goal of engagement, I want to first go a bit deeper into the metric side of things, and after that, I want to go and prioritize a specific metric which will help drive more engagement on the platform.
Okay, cool. Let's do that.
Cool. So I'll just take a couple of minutes and I'll get back to you. So as I'm thinking about some metrics, on the creator side, I can think about the number of events which are formed within a specific time frame. In this case, I'm looking at a 7-day window and a 30-day window. The second thing I can think about is I want to ensure that the platform is not used by basically by the power users. So the number of unique people who are going and forming these events, again within the same time frame. The next metric I can think about is what is the overall, like how many people are actually going and forming these events. So some kind of a overall conversion rate where the number of people who are forming these events upon the number of people who are landing on the events page and are trying to form an event but don't go and finish and form the event. And the last one is more from the side of the creators, is once the event has been formed, the number of invites or the number of people they are going and inviting to these events. On the joiner side now, I'm looking at the RSVP rate because like the overall key actions joiners do is they go and respond to an event, that if they're interested or they are going or not going, again within the same time frame. And I also want to focus on events which have a higher RSVP rate. And what I mean by like what I'm kind of thinking about high is like based on my experience and based on the events I have formed, I think normally sort of possibly like a 60% rate is what I will say as a high rate. But again, like to go and classify a high, like something higher, I would need to do a bit more research with my data science team. But like here, at least for the purposes of this question, and based on my learnings, I'll say the number of events which have a high RSVP rate, and and what I mean by high is more than a 60% RSVP rate.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I can think about is the number of meaningful engagements on Facebook, which are happening after the user have viewed the event. And what I mean by engagement here is, as I was mentioning before, is suppose a person goes to the Facebook event page and there's a page about the event where you can go and interact with the event, but there's also a discussion forum. So if people are going and liking or like adding more comments on the discussion forum or opening a new post, or people are sharing their event to various Facebook groups, or trying to find other close by events. So I think these are the overall metrics I can think about. Just want to take a quick pause if these align with you.
No, I'm curious to see how you're going to bring these three together into a strategy to measure success. So let's do that.
Sounds good. So I'll just take a minute to go and define my North Star metric and some sort of counter metrics. So I'll just take a minute. So as I'm thinking about like my overall product, I just want to go back to the why this product exists. The reason this product exists is to get people form some kind of an event where they can assemble a group of people either virtually or in person by going back to the platform to go and perform a certain action. So
Mhm.
as I was mentioning this, I think the key thing or why people might be looking to use the product more and more is if it can drive higher rate of RSVP so that they can plan their events better. So in this case, what I'm thinking about my North Star metric is a number of events with a higher RSVP rate. And for the purpose of this question, I'm taking the word high as 60% of RSVP.
Okay.
I also want to have some kind of secondary metric. And in case of secondary metric, what I'm thinking about is a platform driven metric, again, to drive more engagement on the platform. And like going back to our overall business strategy, which is to drive more stickiness on the platform, drive more engagement. What I'm thinking about is a number of meaningful engagements which are happening on Facebook post viewing in a certain time frame. And these engagements could be either on the events discussion page, or going and adding people who are part of a certain event, or going and searching for like other events which are like very close by to the event which we have. Like the reason this metric is important because it also ensures that the machine learning models I have, which actually go and power the linked events, are actually accurate.
Hmm.
And the
So
last bit, yeah, sorry, you had a question?
keep going. You can
Uh,
finish. That's fine.
just really quickly on the counter metric, I just want to ensure that people are just not using Facebook events as the only product, and the overall experience is not going and cannibalizing the other experiences of the various products which we have on Facebook. So I want to have some kind of a metric where I can go and measure the average session time per Facebook product per user, again, within the same time frame. So
Got it.
I just want to
So
pause
you,
the question.
yeah, sure. So you mentioned your North Star metric here is the RSVP rate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So my follow-up based on that would be, let's say now you're the PM on the events team. You've decided that that's your North Star metric, and now you're noticing that some of your engineers are skewing towards working on products that encourage smaller events on the platform, because that they happen to have higher rates of responses from attendees. Just because the number of people who might respond in, say, a 10-person event over is a lot higher than an event where there's hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of people who are invited, and they tend to see lower response rates. What would you do in that situation?
So like in such a situation, I think one of the key things is we are looking to drive, we are looking as a North Star metric again, is to look at events which have a high RSVP rate.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, as you're mentioning this, I think one of the key metrics which I also need to look at is the number of unique people who are forming such events. So I think one of the clarifying questions I'll probably ask you is, um, are the events which are smaller in nature but like larger number, are these being formed by the same people, or are the people who are forming these events are kind of overall different people? Um, just want to check on that question.
I'll let you answer that question and tell me how you would change your approach based on each of those cases.
So I think the first thing I will look at, I'll just go back to the overall goal of the product. The goal of the product, as we talked about, at least on my secondary metric, is to drive more engagement on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, how I will look at engagement is again the number of conversations, the number of interactions which are happening on the platform. So with that in mind, probably what I will do is launch an experiment, and with the goal of the experiment to look specifically if my hypothesis that smaller events can also drive higher engagement. So what I will do as a part of an experiment, I'll basically have a control group, which is probably these large scale events, and a treatment group, which might be these smaller events. Let's say these events are of 10 people each,
Mm-hmm.
and see within these smaller events, are my sort of like in terms of measuring the success of my experiment, I'll look at a combination of my secondary metrics. If either of these secondary metrics are going in a positive direction or they're going in a negative direction. If they're going in a negative direction, that means the smaller scale events are not meaningful for us as Facebook on the platform because they are not driving engagement. And that's the reason, with that analogy in mind, I'll probably look at events which have higher number of people rather than events which have lower number of people. Just want to check if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Another question I wanted to ask you. So you mentioned that you are benchmarking high RSVP events at a 60% threshold. Could you tell me a little bit more? Let's say now you needed to get a little more technical about arriving at the 60% number. What are some techniques that you would use to arrive at that benchmark?
Got it. I'll just take one quick second to jot my
Mhm.
thoughts. Yeah, so as I'm thinking about like benchmarking the number, one of the first thing I will do is, of course, work with my data science team to understand on a global perspective what are the size of the events and what is the RSVP rate, and then probably I'll segment these events based on specific geographic locations, specific segment of users, and probably when I'm talking about segmenting, I'll look at which are the kind of events which are being formed. So Facebook has this notion of tags, or you can go and tag events. So based on
Mhm.
specific events, how are this RSVP rate looking at? Um, my belief is if you have an event which is more like an educational event, you'll probably see a higher RSVP rate rather than an event which is more like a social event. So I'll probably work with my data science team to go and define these overall thresholds across the various category of events and split by various geographics. And that's how I'll
Mhm.
form the RSVP rate. Is that
Okay.
answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's fair. So based on this North Star of RSVP rate, what if you start noticing that your RSVP rate is doing really well, but your number of events is trending downwards? What would your approach be then?
So in this case, if my RSVP rate is high and number of events is going down, I'll look at my secondary metric. I think the first thing I'd like to see is the number of people who are forming the events that is going down. My
Hmm.
guess is if the number of events itself is going down, the number of people who are forming the events might be also going down. So that would
Hmm.
be a red flag for me straight away. And I'll try to look at why that is happening. So now that I know that this is happening and it's related to my secondary metric, I'll start asking a few questions to understand why is such a thing happening. So the first question I'll look at is more some of the internal factors to see if something is broken. And I think the first thing I would like to check on is or some sort of a time frame when we are seeing these events going down. So I just want to check if you have some kind of time frame in mind.
Um, let's say this has happened since, let's say you joined the team last month. This new metric, this new North Star metric was chosen about a month ago. And over the month, you've noticed that the number of total events has gone down.
Got it. So in case the number of total events has gone down in the past one, it's like some sort of a gradual dip. So I'll probably rule out some kind of a infrastructural issue at this moment at least. The next thing which I'll probably look at is so the number of events being formed is going down. So other thing which I'll check first of all is, are there any other product launches within Facebook which has happened which might be driving users away from this product?
Mhm.
Or are there any A/B experiments which are being run because of which the button or like the whole notion of going and looking at the Facebook events, that insight users are not able to go and discover. So I just want to check if any of those things have happened.
So it's not the second, it's not AB events, it's the former.
Got it. So in this case,
Yeah.
as you had mentioned, a new Facebook product has been launched because of which we
Mhm.
might be seeing a dip in Facebook events.
Okay, I think we can end over here. I'd love to ask you how you think this went. What were your thoughts on the question, and how would you suggest other people approach this when they see a question like it?
Yeah, so I actually love this question. I'll be honest, I have used Facebook events, not a lot, but I'm like an active user on Facebook. Um, I think in terms of this question, I think I did okay. we talked over the overall, like why Facebook event matters. We talked about why we are looking at engagement, and what is the overall moat, or why a Facebook event stands out in terms of its competitors. And then I think I had a good listing of metrics there as well, and I loved all the questions you asked me. So yeah, I think like I'll probably rate myself as an okay round. I think in
I'm
terms.
curious. Oh, so keep going.
Oh, like the other question which you had asked, like, how would people approach such a question? I think the key thing which I feel like on any product execution question is to look at the user journey and first of all, focus on what is the primary driver for your product. Now, if your product is driving more towards engagement, focus more on the engagement side of the user journey as compared to the other sides of the user journey, which will help you drive a conclusive North Star metric.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm curious why you brought up the landscape and competitors. It doesn't seem like we touched on that again. So I'd like to get a little more insight onto why you made that decision.
So the reason I brought our competitors is I think one of the key things about like if you look at the product's life cycle, if I was looking at sort of a product like Facebook Pay. So Facebook Pay is a product where we are trying to go and acquire the market, where our competitors have acquired a large part of the market. Whereas when you look at Facebook events, it's a mature product. We don't need to go with an acquisition strategy. Whereas also when we did the overall competitor analysis, I learned is these other products exist, but they exist in a silo. And what's missing from these products is the engagement, is the network effect which Facebook has. So that's the reason I think, at least in my mind, doing the competitive analysis helped me understand that, hey, my goal of engagement is actually a really good goal because of the overall network effect of Facebook.
Got it. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think overall, I will call out, I really, really enjoyed that there was a document in front of me and I could follow your thoughts that way. That's sometimes things can get kind of lost in the weeds in these interviews, but having it in black and white in front of you is very helpful. That doesn't work for everyone, but I think you navigated that well, and it helped me follow along. Otherwise, yeah, I think this was a very useful interview, and I hope everyone else also benefits from watching this in preparation for theirs.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much for joining us, everyone, and good luck with your interviews.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below to let us know that this video is valuable for you. And of course, check out hundreds more videos just like this at tryexponent.com. Thanks for watching and good luck on your upcoming interview.